Hello everybody, how you doing today? It's Superfiend here, and welcome back to another video in my Total War Warhammer II tutorial series. The first video focused primarily on faction selection and a brief overview of the campaign map. In this video, we'll cover the basics of campaign gameplay. This includes attacking nearby enemies, expanding our territory, upgrading our buildings, and if possible, managing diplomatic relations. At the end of our previous video, we had finished all of our useful moves with our armies and our heroes, and we had started recruiting some units, which we can see here, and we had started some building upgrades. We had also moved our strongest army right next to this enemy army and left it sitting outside their area of influence in a recruitment stance. At the beginning of our next turn, we should be strong enough to take them on the battlefield and kill them easily. Since we have used all of our useful moves for this turn, we will finish the turn by clicking the End Turn button. Upon doing so, the AI will get a chance to perform all of its moves. All the AI factions will perform moves, whether we know about them or not, and you'll see the AI faction movements, or the AI faction turn order, update and change across the top of the screen. We're going to end the turn now. We see that the enemy AI army is retreating from us. Here at the beginning of our turn, we have to decide tactically what would make the best choice. Since the Skaven army has retreated from us and headed towards the Serpent Coast, and we would like to kill them, and we would like to occupy the Serpent Coast in order to complete this province, the Kingdom of Beasts, it would be a good idea to move this army south towards the Serpent Coast. However, there are two problems with that. One, Skaven occupy runes, and there could be a stronger Skaven force in this settlement that we are unaware of. The other problem is that there is a fog of war. We cannot see any armies or threats that may be nearby in this fog of war. If we move our army too close, and there is a threat that becomes apparent, we may not have enough movement to retreat back to safety. What we can do instead is we can scout ahead with our skink hero, our skink priest. You can move your agents and armies as many times as you want to during your turn, as long as they still have movement meter left over, which is shown above their portrait. For example, if I click on the skink priest, and I right click right here and hold the mouse button down, we'll see a yellow movement arrow that shows how far the skink priest will move, and in the bottom left hand corner we even get a nice percentage indicating that we will have 82% of our movement left over. We're going to go ahead and inch our way forward with the skink priest and see if we could uncover anything. Since we have not uncovered anything dangerous, let's move forward a little bit more, almost to the distance of the settlement. We haven't uncovered any enemy armies, so that leads us to believe that it may be safe to press forward with Kroq-Gar. However, there could still be a Skaven force hiding in the ruins of the Serpent Coast. There are two ways we can determine if it is safe to move towards the Serpent Coast with Kroq-Gar, and if there are any Skaven forces hidden within. I'm going to use the game's quick save and quick load features to show you both of them. By holding Control and pressing S, the game will be quick saved. Now I can select Kroq-Gar, and I can right click on the settlement, and we see that the icon changes to have a little treasure chest. If we right click, that will move Kroq-Gar to the settlement, and we will have options to explore it. We'll do that now. And we see here that Skaven have been revealed. We can see that Puss Stitch is part of the settlement, and Murda is the reinforcing army on the campaign map. I'm going to go ahead and hold down Control and press L to quick load the game to show you the other way next. The other way we can uncover Skaven forces inside of our runes is by using a hero. If we select our skink priest and we right click on the settlement, that will allow us to perform a hero action. Right now there is only one action we can perform, Occasionally, there may be more than one action that a hero can perform against the settlement. If there are more than one actions available, you can either choose one action or cancel all of them. We're going to go ahead and we're going to right click again. We see here that the name of the action is Scout the Runes, and it tells us the target settlement, which is the Serpent Coast. There's also a cost associated with performing this action. In this case, 475 will be deducted from our treasury. If we hover the mouse over the action, it will tell us our chances of a positive outcome. If the chance of a positive outcome is not 100%, there are also negative outcomes that could result in your agent being wounded, in which case they'll take a few turns to recover. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click this button, and we're going to scout the runes. We see that Skaven are revealed, and there is a new notification here. We have discovered the Skaven faction, Clan Mordkin, hiding within the runes of Serpent Coast. And we'll close that now. Performing actions with your agents and heroes earns them experience, and eventually they will gain skill points. When they gain a new skill point, there will be a little yellow arrow that appears above your agent's icon. You can also see that same yellow arrow here, under the unit cards. If we click on the rank indicator in the portrait under the unit cards, or if we click on the rank indicator down here in the bottom left, we will be taken to the skills tree for this particular hero. We see in the top right that we have one skill point to spend. Skill trees are divided into multiple rows, and each row confers different types or different categories of bonuses to your heroes. For example, the top row, these two items here are for a mount. This skink hero can eventually be placed on a pterodon mount and eventually a stegodon. Having a mount will make them faster and maybe more useful and terrifying in combat. These are singular buffs that will grant the hero buffs in battle or on the campaign map. A skink priest is considered a magic user, so this particular line here, moving to the right, grants this magic user additional spells that they can use in the Warhammer II real-time battles. Other types of lords and heroes may have additional rows filling in the middle section here. The skink priest, however, does not have them. On the bottom, typically called the blue line because the buttons are colored blue, are various effects that will take place on the campaign map. Because this tutorial is focusing mostly on campaign play, we're going to ignore the top two rows for now, and we're going to spend our skill point on Block Army. Block Army is a special type of agent action that you can perform against an enemy army, and it reduces their movement range. This is very useful when they're trying to outrun you on the campaign map and you need to run them down. We see that we can spend up to 3 points in Block Army, and if you hover the mouse over the first point, we see that Block Army will have an additional minus 3% modifier added to it. At the second rank, that 3% changes to minus 8%, and finally minus 15% movement range at the highest rank of level 3. We also see that these ranks unlock at different levels. The first rank is available now, the second rank will not unlock until rank 5, and the third rank will not unlock until our hero is level 10. We're going to go ahead and spend that point now, and then close this screen. Having performed an action, our agent loses all remaining movement points and can no longer do anything this turn. Now that we've uncovered Skaven within the settlement, the icon for the settlement changes from runes to that of the faction banner. Now if we click on the settlement, we also see down below in the province summary that there are buildings within the settlement, and if we click on the garrison details button, we can get a glimpse of the garrison units that are within the settlement. If we attack the settlement with Krokgar, then this nearby army will come onto the battle as reinforcements. If we attack this nearby army as Krokgar, then the garrison will reinforce the army. It doesn't really matter which we choose, because this settlement does not have any walls, and it will be an open field battle in either case, so we are going to select Krokgar, and we are going to right-click on the settlement. This is the pre-battle screen. On the left, you'll see a list of your armies and any reinforcing armies, of which we have none, and on the right, you'll see a list of enemy armies and any reinforcements. The main army that we are attacking is the settlement garrison, and then the regular campaign army is acting as reinforcements. In the middle, we see a summary of what the AI thinks the battle will be like. We see that the balance of power, because the bar is mostly yellow, is heavily in our favor. And if the balance of power was mostly red, then the AI would be saying to us that the Skaven have a high chance of winning this battle. The auto-resolve is not always correct, and the only way to know how accurate it is to play lots and lots of Total War and get a feel for it. Down here, we see that there is no siege equipment that can be built, simply because this settlement does not have walls. If the settlement had walls, we would have lists of siege equipment we could begin building. We do not have to attack the settlement on this turn. We could click this button, and we could simply encircle the settlement, at which point we return to the campaign map. If we hover the mouse over the settlement name, the pop-up here will show us a couple of interesting numbers. The first is that there are 6 turns until the settlement garrison runs out of supplies and begins taking attrition. Attrition would cause the settlement garrison to slowly lose numbers as the campaign turns go by. This is useful if you don't want to fight the battle and want to starve the garrison out. We also see that after 11 turns, the settlement would surrender. Usually on the final turn before surrendering, the garrison will make a last-ditch attempt to attack you, in which case you would most likely auto-resolve and take the settlement with no losses. We, however, desire to take the settlement on this turn. We can select Krokar's army again and right-click on the settlement to go back to the pre-battle screen. If we wish to end the siege, we could click the flag and that would break the siege. That would cause Krokar to flee some distance away from the settlement. You don't get to control the direction that your army flees, but typically it is away from any AI forces. In this case, Krokar would most likely flee to the left. If we wanted to fight the battle manually, we would click on the cross swords, and that would take us to the Warhammer battle. Since that is not the focus of these tutorials, we are going to select the button that looks like a computer monitor with a refresh symbol, which means auto-resolve. Again, because the balance of power is heavily in our favor, we expect the Skaven to be completely wiped out with minimal losses to our side. By clicking auto-resolve, the AI will simulate the battle and notify us that we had a decisive victory. We also gain a little bit of income to our treasury for fighting the battle, and we have gained an enchanted item, which Krokar has automatically equipped. We also see that Krokar has ranked to level 2 and will have a skill point to spend when we leave this screen. Down here we get a nice summary of the battle. We see that Krokar's force had 738 troops and we lost 76. Meanwhile, the Skaven lost almost all 1,500 of their units. The garrison is completely wiped out and the army is mostly destroyed. We click this checkbox to leave this screen, and now we have a post-settlement battle option list of things that we can perform. After winning a battle at a settlement and looking at the battle summary screen, you must decide what to do with that settlement. There are 4 options in most cases. Those are occupy, loot and occupy, sack, and raise. It's worth noting that occupy and loot and occupy means that you will garrison the settlement with your army and it becomes part of your territory. If you choose to sack the settlement, you cause public order penalties, gain replenishment, and gain a boost to your treasury. Raising the settlement will add a small amount of funds to your treasury, and it destroys all buildings in the settlement and converts it to ruins. Loot and occupy is similar to sacking the settlement. You still get the replenishment bonus, and there is still a public order penalty. However, less funds will be added to your treasury. There is also a one-time public order penalty of -30 in this case, but that only lasts for 1 turn. If we occupy the settlement, the 1-turn penalty to public order will be much smaller than the sack option. Loot and occupy is good if you took a lot of casualties in taking the settlement, or if you are low on income. Since neither of those are true in our case right now, we are going to occupy the settlement. Upon occupying the settlement, your army will move into the settlement and act as a secondary garrison. This uses all the remaining movement that your army had, and you will get extra replenishment while you are within a settlement, as opposed to simply being in your territory. We see here that there are summary screens telling us what has happened. First, we see that we have killed an enemy in battle, and we have completed a mission. The mission was to capture and occupy a settlement belonging to the following faction, Clan Mordkin. Since they own this settlement and we took it from them, we have completed that quest, and we have been given 1,000 to our treasury and 8 ancient plaques. We also see that a new mission has been issued. We must maintain control of one province, either by direct ownership or through vassals and military allies. Upon doing this, we will be given 2,000 to our treasury and 7 more ancient plaques. The easiest way to complete that quest would be to come up here to the Cursed Jungle to our north and to occupy this settlement. Upon doing so, we will own the entirety of the province called Kingdom of Beasts, and that quest will be completed. Anytime you occupy new territory, it's a good idea to begin upgrading it if you have the funds to do so. We're going to go ahead and move back down to the Serpent Coast, the settlement that we just captured. We see here that there's a little hammer on the campaign map, and there's also a hammer in here in the province overview. We can upgrade the capital slot of this settlement by clicking this button here. This is going to take 3 turns and cost 1,600. By doing so, we're going to get a little extra income and better growth, and we're going to have better garrison for the settlement. It's important that your settlements have good garrisons because that will help to deter the AI from attacking you. Another good reason to upgrade your main settlement buildings is if we look in here in the building browser, we see that various buildings are unlocked at various levels of the main building. The main building is on the left, and all the other buildings that we can build in the settlement are on the right. Inside of your minor settlements, because they don't have walls, it is a good idea to build buildings within the defense line. The more important of the two is the Saris Garrison. We see here that when we upgrade the main building of Serpent Coast to level 2, that Skink Lookouts will be unlocked. Skink Lookouts provides 6 new units as part of the settlement garrison. That's very beneficial and can help defeat enemy AI armies that decide to attack you. When we finally make the upgrade of this building from level 2 to level 3, then Saris Garrison will be unlocked, and this building adds walls to the settlement. This is very important, and you should always try to build the building that adds walls to all of your minor settlements. Having performed all our possible actions in upgrading the Serpent Coast settlement, we will now turn our attention to Krokkar, who gained a skill point when he won the battle. By clicking on the rank button by Krokkar's portrait, just like the Skink Priest, we will get Krokkar's skill tree. We can see that this is much larger and has many more options than the Skink Priest does. For now, we're going to focus on Route Marcher from the blue line, which grants Krokkar and his entire army an additional 10% movement range on the campaign map. This is a very beneficial ability to have because being able to get places on the campaign map will make your life much easier, or if you are unable to, much worse. It's worth getting Route Marcher, usually within the first 10 levels of any of your lords. It's a very good skill to have. The other thing we're going to do, since Krokkar no longer has any movement, but he is within his own territory, if we click on the Serpent Coast, we see that Serpent Coast has no military buildings. However, Serpent Coast, the Cursed Jungle, and Temple of Skulls are all part of the same province, and we do have military recruitment buildings within the Temple of Skulls. That means that Krokkar, even though he is not in the actual Temple of Skulls settlement or territory, he can still recruit. We're going to go ahead and recruit with Krokkar a couple units of Skink cohorts. These are cudgel infantry with shields, which means they are good as a front line against missile units because their shields will inherently block some of the missile fire. They are not better than the Saurus Warriors or the Saurus Spears, and they do cost a little bit more upkeep per turn. However, they are cheaper to recruit. Since we have 1900 in our treasury, and we are still earning 1100, almost 1200 income per turn, we're going to recruit 3 of these now. They will become available to us on the next turn. This is pretty much the optimal path that we can perform with Krokgar, since he has no more movement and we have the funds for recruitment, and we see that Krokgar's army has not reached its maximum unit allotment of 20. The last and final move we can perform this turn becomes apparent when we look at the Lords and Heroes dropdown. We see that Goranagar still has an entirely full movement meter. By selecting him, the campaign map will move to his location, and we get a nice yellow outline of how far this hero can move. We're going to do something slightly different with him, and we're going to move him into the water, because we are going to come down here to this fell cargo, and we are going to pick this up. Actually, it would be more optimal if we move to this fell cargo to the north, since the campaign map ends in the water here. After picking up this fell cargo drop, we can then move south to this one here, and we can continue moving south to other item pickups that are laid within the ocean waters of the campaign map. We are going to go ahead now, and we are going to click on Goranagar, and we are going to move here to the water. Transitioning from land to water typically uses up all of your remaining movement range. However, if we look at the stance, we can change it to the full speed stance and gain a slight boost to our movement range and inch our way just a little bit closer towards the fell cargo. At this point, we're very confident that we've done everything useful we can do this turn. We also see that there are no notifications, which would lead us to believe that now would be a good time to end our turn. However, there's a few ways where you can double check and make sure that that is actually true. The first of which is to look at your missions and quests and just double check that there isn't a quest battle or other event that you are forgetting to perform. In this case, these are both missions that we can't complete right now, and we know that we can continue. If we look at the Lords and Heroes display, we see that all the Lords and Heroes have moved their maximum range. You should be careful of the recruitment stance, however, because sometimes if you select an army that is in a stance, you can change their stance and then they may be able to move. In this case, we know that Krokgar has used all his movement by taking the Serpent Coast, so we know that this is an accurate representation. If we click on the Provinces tab, we see that there is no little hammer icon by any of our settlements. This means that there are no building upgrades that we can perform right now. However, if you were to look at the settlement, it may be possible that there is a building that you could upgrade if you had the funds. And before ending your turn, if you freed up some money somehow, you may be able to build that. Finally, if you look at the known factions, we'll see here that there's really no diplomacy that we can engage in. What would be most beneficial to us right now might be trade, which is indicated by the box with the double arrows. However, we see that these icons indicate that 1, we are already trading with this faction, and we are unable to trade with any of the other factions. Therefore, there's nothing left we can do this turn, and it's finally time to end our turn and let the AI perform its moves. Here we see that the beastmen that we are at war with have attempted to move in a special movement way that is unique to them. We've intercepted them, and the balance of power is heavily in our favor. We're going to go ahead and auto-resolve this in order to kill their army. We see again that we've scored a decisive victory, and we've gained loot, which is now added to our treasury. Krokgar has also gained rank 3 and will have an additional skill point to spend when it's our turn. Down here in the battle summary, just as in the case where we defeated a settlement battle, we see that there are options that we can perform. The first is to release the captives, the second is to exterminate, and the third is to kill and eat. If we release the captives, our treasury will be increased by 415. However, we will have a 5-turn penalty, which reduces our casualty replenishment rate by 5%. If you are not planning to move or attack anything, and you are short on funds, release captives might be the best option. In here, if we exterminate, all of our units will gain 100 unit experience. That helps them to earn what are called chevrons, which we can kind of see here on this unit card. As units gain chevrons, they get a little bit more powerful in battle. Finally, if we kill and eat the captives, our units will be replenished by 26%. However, we are within our own settlement and already getting very good replenishment. So all things considered, we're going to go ahead and exterminate and gain unit experience for all of our units. Now that we are at the beginning of our turn again, we see that new events have popped up to notify us of anything important that happened during the AI moves. We see that we have completed another mission. In this case, the mission was to complete at least one of the following buildings, and our reward is 500 added to our treasury. We also see that a new mission has been issued. The game would like us to research a technology. The reward for doing so will be an additional 500 in our treasury. There is now a new mission being issued, and that is to capture and occupy the following settlement, the Golden Tower. That is here directly to our northwest. We see that this settlement is owned by another lizardman faction, Tlaqua. Capturing and owning this could prove difficult, as they are most likely more powerful than us, and they are friendly with us, and we have a trade agreement with them. So if we were to try to complete that mission by declaring war on them, we would lose this trade agreement and a small amount of income per turn. We also see that we have discovered an ambusher. And we have also consequently destroyed the ambusher too. And finally, Krokgar has gained a rank and is now rank 3. We'll go ahead and click on Krokgar and his rank indicator to spend a skill point. We're going to go down what is commonly called the red line, which will improve the unit stats of Krokgar's army. We're going to pick Inspiring Presence, which will increase his leadership effect on the battlefield by +5. For our opening moves this turn, we will be moving Gor and Agar to pick up this felled cargo and search for any treasures within. We will also continue scouting with our Skink Priest, because if we look here under the Known Factions tab, we see that we are still at war with Clan Mordkin. We don't want to leave the Serpent Coast undefended until we know that Clan Mordkin is no longer a threat. And since Clan Mordkin is the only faction where we have the double-crossed swords, or otherwise the only faction that we are at war with, they are the primary concern for the safety of our territory. We're going to go ahead and go over to the Lords and Heroes tab and select Gor and Agar and right-click on the Fell Cargo. Upon picking this up, we are presented with what is commonly called a dilemma. There is a short story indicating what the dilemma is about, and there are multiple choices. This particular dilemma has 2 choices. Some dilemmas may have more. If we look at the overall summary here, we don't know exactly what happens. All we know is that if we choose the Castle Forged Steel, our army will perform better in battle. If we choose the Captain's Chest, our army will perform better in the campaign. Since this is a single Lord army and doesn't have any units, it's probably not worthwhile to make it perform better in battle, and we're going to pick the Captain's Chest. Upon doing so, we get a summary of what has happened. We have gained a trunk of maps. If we look here, we now have a magic item drop chance of plus 25% and an additional 50% campaign line of sight boost that will last for 10 turns. We've also found an item, which is the Biting Blade. This is a magic item that can be equipped by a Lord or a hero. We also still have some movement left over with Gor and Agar. In fact, we can see that we have quite an amount of movement left over, 66%. We're going to use that remaining movement and start heading towards down here to this Fell Cargo that we will be able to pick up on our next turn. Next, we will use our Skink Priest to continue scouting for the remnants of the faction Clan Mordkin. There is another settlement down here that appears to be ruins, and Clan Mordkin may be hidden within inside. First, we're not going to search the settlement right away, but rather we are going to move our skink priest right next to it. We may be able to reveal enemy units on the campaign map in the Fog of War. Since we have not done so, we will now go ahead and right click on Teotihuacan and choose Scout the Runes. We see once again that Skaven have been revealed. Clan Mordkin has a presence here. Therefore, we want to keep Krokar and his army near the Serpent Coast, or even better, press onwards to attack Clan Mordkin. We see once again that performing an action with our hero has earned enough experience to gain a rank. We're going to go ahead and open up the skills tree, and we're going to choose Specialist. This is going to make all of our heroes' actions have an increased 1% success chance, and the actions will now cost 10% less to perform. We are also, since we cannot see any enemy armies threatening this area, we will move Krokar forward, but keep him within our territory. By keeping Krokar within our territory, his units will continue to replenish, and on the next turn, we will have enough movement range to attack Clan Mordkin at this settlement. At this point, we think we have performed all of our useful moves. However, the notification is telling us to perform a research. Also, if we look at our missions and quests, we see that we have a quest which is to perform a research or research a technology. And upon doing so, we will get 500 to our treasury. We can open the technology tree here. One of the buildings that we have built in our settlement has unlocked a research tablet of the Saurus. It will take 4 turns to complete this research, and upon doing so, the melee defense for all Saurus units will be increased by +5. This makes them slightly more defensive on the battlefield. Before ending our turn, we notice that Krokar has a little bit of movement left over. If we select Krokar and go down to the stance indicator on his army, we see here that we have enough movement left over to adopt an ambush stance. There are various stances that your armies can enter into on the battlefield or on the campaign map, and an ambush stance will make Krokar invisible to all enemy armies. It doesn't hurt to enter this stance, so we're going to go ahead and choose that now and make use of what was left of Krokar's movement. At this point, we will end our turn. Once again at the beginning of our turn, we are going to use Gor and Agar to scout this fell cargo. We see this time that we were not presented with a dilemma. We did find a Scroll of Power, which again is a magic item that we can equip to a Lord or a hero. And we have also gotten a Lost Cargo bonus that lasts for 6 turns. All of our provinces will experience +30 growth, and we are gaining +10% income from all regions. Since Goranagar still has some movement left over, we are going to continue traveling down the coast. Next, we would like, ideally, to complete the Kingdom of Beasts province. In order to do that, we must occupy the Cursed Jungle. However, this is runes, and it could be unoccupied, or there may be Skaven lurking within. To determine which is the case, we will start moving our skink priests north towards that settlement. And once getting there, we will scout that settlement with the skink priest. We also see that there are still no Skaven armies here that are threatening us. Therefore, we should be able to take Krokar and move into a regular stance. If we select this settlement, we see that it has walls, and it will be slightly harder to take this settlement than it was to take the Serpent Coast earlier. We're going to go ahead and lay siege to this settlement by right-clicking on it now. Upon doing so, we see that the settlement garrison will start taking attrition after 8 turns, and after 13 turns, will finally surrender. We also see that there is siege equipment that we can build. We're going to start building 1 battering ram and several towers. At this point, we click Continue Siege, as all of this equipment will take several turns to complete. Now all we have to do is wait patiently and hope that the Clan Mordkin Skaven do not reinforce Teotihuacan with a stronger roaming army. The final actions we will perform as part of this tutorial is to make an attempt to manage diplomatic relations. If we click on the Known Factions tab, we will get a drop-down of all factions that we have discovered up until now in our campaign. We see that Tlaqua is friendly with us, as indicated by the green face. If we double-click on Tlaqua, it will open the diplomacy screen. The complete details of diplomacy will be saved for a later video. For now, we will click on the Add Offer Demand button, and we see here that there are several things that we could choose from. The green hand, or the orange hand, indicates to us how likely this action is to succeed. We see that a trade agreement, which will allow us to get slightly more income per turn by trading with them, has a good chance of success. We're going to go ahead and choose that and click the checkbox and see if they accept. They have accepted our offer. Having made a trade agreement with Tlaqua, we see that the trade icon now turns into a green box with double arrows, and we see that we are earning an extra 55 income per turn from this. We could potentially trade with another faction, Tor Elisor. However, they are slightly less friendly with us. It might take more incentive for them to accept trade. We'll go ahead and we'll initially try a trade agreement and see if they accept. We're lucky and that they have accepted straight away. This concludes this tutorial for Total War Warhammer 2. I hope you found it useful and appreciate any comments, criticisms, or feedback that you wish to leave. We'll see you next time, and have a good afternoon.